My name is Lena Hart. I'm 31 years old, and for the longest time, I believed I had the perfect life. A stable job, a quiet home, and a husband who everyone thought was a gentleman. But today, as I'm telling you this story, I'm still shaking because everything I thought I knew was a lie that nearly killed me. Before I take you into the moment that exposed his truth, please hit the like button, subscribe for more true life stories, and comment where you're watching from. Your support helps my channel reach survivors who need stories like this. Thank you. Now, let's begin. I met Ethan Ward 6 years ago at a charity event. He was charming, polite, and acted like he understood me in a way no one ever had. He remembered every little thing I told him, my favorite coffee, the name of my childhood dog, even the way I said thank you when I was nervous. Everyone loved him. My friends teased me for finally picking a good one. My mother adored him. My father shook his hand firmly and said, "Take care of my daughter." Ethan promised he would. 2 years later, we got married. The wedding was everything I dreamed of. White lights, soft music, his hands around my waist as he whispered our vows, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. If only I knew that death was the part he took literally. Because just 6 months after the wedding, the mask cracked. It was a Tuesday night. I'd made him dinner, his favorite lemon butter pasta, but it was slightly overcooked. I laughed nervously, thinking it was no big deal. But Ethan's face changed instantly. Cold, flat, dark. "You can't do one simple thing right, can you?" he snapped. I thought he was joking, until he slapped me. The sound echoed through the kitchen. I stood there frozen, holding my cheek, unable to understand what had just happened. And then, just like that, he dropped to his knees crying. "Baby, I'm sorry. I'm stressed. I didn't mean it. It'll never happen again." I wanted to believe him, so I did. But never again only lasted 3 weeks. This time it was because I forgot to pick up his dry cleaning. He grabbed my hair, slammed me into the wall, and hissed, "You have one job, Lena." The apologies came again, then gifts, then flowers, then silence, then another explosion. It became a cycle, violence followed by sweetness, cruelty followed by "I love you," terrifying nights followed by gentle mornings. And slowly he isolated me. First my friends, then my family, then my job, until eventually he was all I had. 3 years passed like this, bruises hidden beneath sleeves, lies told to neighbors, makeup covering the things I couldn't speak about. But nothing prepared me for the night everything broke. It started with an argument over dinner, again. But this time, Ethan didn't stop. His punches were harder, his kicks sharper. He hit me until my vision blurred, until breathing hurt, until the world around me started fading to black. I tried to crawl, I tried to speak, I tried to open my eyes, but I couldn't. The last thing I heard was his voice shaking. "Don't die on me, not like this." The world disappeared. And when I woke up again, I was in the back seat of his car, drifting in and out of consciousness. Ethan was muttering under his breath. "She fell down the stairs. She fell down the stairs. She fell." That was the moment I realized the truth. He wasn't scared for me. He was scared of being caught. And what happened when we reached the hospital? That is where everything changed. That is where his lie began to crack. That is where the doctor looked at me and saw everything. Everything was blurry. Lights, voices, the ceiling moving above me as they wheeled me into the hospital. I could barely keep my one good eye open. My body felt like it belonged to someone else. But Ethan? He was performing. "Please help her," he shouted, voice trembling with perfect panic. I found her at the bottom of the stairs. She must have slipped." The nurses rushed around me. A doctor leaned over my face. I tried to speak, but only blood filled my mouth. Ethan squeezed my hand gently, too gently, pretending to be a devoted husband. "Baby, you're safe now," he whispered for the crowd, but his thumb pressed hard on my wrist, a silent warning. "Don't say a word." The doctor asked, "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened?" I opened my mouth, but Ethan's eyes locked onto mine. Calm, cold, deadly. I don't know," I whispered. "I fell." The doctor nodded, but the nurse behind him didn't. She looked at me long and hard. Her eyes weren't confused. They were knowing. They cut off my shirt to check for injuries, and suddenly the whole room shifted. Because there they were, the bruises. Not one, not 10, but dozens in every color imaginable. Purple, green, yellow, fading, fresh, overlapping. A tapestry of pain across my ribs, stomach, arms. The room fell silent. The doctor stared. The nurse blinked slowly. Ethan's smile wavered, just for a second. Then he forced a laugh. "Oh, she bruises easily," he said. "She bumps into things all the time." No one laughed with him. Not the nurse, not the doctor, no one. The nurse spoke first. "Sir, we'll need you to wait outside while we take her for scans." "I'm not leaving my wife. Hospital policy," she snapped. "You can wait in the family room." Ethan hesitated. He wanted to argue, to fight, to stay close enough to control me, but he couldn't risk looking suspicious. He leaned down and whispered in my ear, "You know what happens if you talk." Then he walked out. As the nurses pushed me down the hall toward radiology, the older nurse, a woman with silver streaks in her hair, leaned close enough that only I could hear her. "Honey, bruises don't lie," she whispered. "I've worked in trauma for 30 years. Those weren't from stairs." My eyes filled with tears. "You're safe right now," she murmured. "He can't touch you in here." "I'm scared," I choked. "I know, but I need you to tell the truth. Did he do this to you?" My lips trembled, my ribs burned, my throat closed. I can't. He'll kill me." "No, sweetheart," she said. "Not on my shift." We reached radiology, scans, x-rays, bright lights, the hum of machines, and then they wheeled me back to a private room, not the first ER bed, a different one. More secure, more isolated, more protected. Ethan was already pacing inside. Finally! What took so long? What did the scans show? The nurse ignored him completely. "The doctor will speak with her privately." He stiffened. "Privately? Why privately? I'm her husband." "Sir," she said firmly, "you need to step out now." His smile cracked. His jaw twitched. His eyes flashed that violence I knew too well. But he had no choice. He left. For the first time in 3 years, I was in a room without him. My heart raced, not from fear of him hurting me, but from fear of what he'd do next. The doctor entered with a tablet. His face was stern, his voice steady. "Lena, your scan results are concerning." Ethan wasn't in the room, but I still felt trapped. "You have a concussion, 3 fractured ribs, a broken nose, internal bruising, and evidence of old fractures that healed incorrectly." My breath caught. The doctor took a step closer. These injuries are not consistent with falling down the stairs. My chest tightened. They show a pattern of repeated trauma over a long period of time. And then he said the words that would finally change everything. We've notified hospital security and social services. For your safety, I need to speak with you alone. I started crying because I knew the truth was finally out, and Ethan's lie was beginning to collapse. The doctor's words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Repeated trauma, not consistent with a fall. Security has been notified. For the first time in years, someone finally said what I've been too scared to whisper. I was being abused. And suddenly, everything inside me cracked. Before I could process it, a loud voice echoed from the hallway. I'm not leaving my wife alone. This is ridiculous. Ethan. His mask was slipping. 2 security guards appeared behind him, blocking the doorway like they'd expected trouble. Sir, you need to leave the room now. This is my wife, he yelled, pointing at me. You can't keep me from her. The doctor stepped forward calmly. Mr. Ward, based on her injuries and the inconsistencies in your explanation, this is now a medical safety investigation. You need to step out. Ethan's face contorted, rage, panic, desperation all twisting together. He turned to me, eyes burning. Lena, tell them you fell. Baby, say it. He tried to sound gentle, but I could hear the threat hiding beneath every word. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. The security guards moved in. Sir, this is your final warning. Ethan hesitated, calculated, and then forced a calm, icy smile. Fine. But Lena, remember who loves you. No. It wasn't love. It was control. The guards escorted him out, the door shut, and for the first time in 3 years, silence. Real silence. Safe silence. The moment the lock clicked, I broke. My body shook violently. Tears poured down my face. All the pain, fear, and secrets I'd buried for years ripped open inside me. The nurse rushed to my side, holding my trembling hand. You're safe. You're safe now, sweetheart. The doctor sat beside the bed. Lena, I need to ask a very serious question. Did Ethan do this to you? I stared at my hands, at the purple fingerprints around my wrist, at the bruises forming across my ribs, and something inside me, something small, tired, but stubborn, finally spoke. Yes. The word was tiny, but it shook the room. Yes, he did this. He's been doing this for years. It was like a dam breaking. I told them everything. The first slap, the escalating violence, the control, the isolation, the night he found me at a motel and dragged me home, the threats, the fear, the way he always said he'd kill me if I ever told anyone. The doctor listened silently, jaw tightening. When I finished, the nurse wiped my tears gently. You did the right thing. You're not alone. Then another woman entered the room, a calm, kind face, a warm voice. Hi, Lena. My name is Marisol Rivera. I'm a domestic violence advocate with the crisis response team. I'm here to help you. You're safe with me. She sat next to me, speaking softly, explaining everything. The police have been notified. Security won't let Ethan near you. Social services will help create a safety plan. You don't have to go home with him. You have options. Options. I hadn't had options in years. But he said he'd kill me. He said if I ever told anyone. Marisol gently placed her hand on mine. And now we know. And now we protect you. She motioned to the nurse, who nodded and stepped out. Lena, the police are on their way. They're going to take your statement. You don't have to be afraid. But I was afraid. Terrified. Not of talking, but of what Ethan would do when he realized he'd lost control. What if he's outside? I whispered, voice shaking. He is, she answered honestly. But security and the police are with him. He can't reach you. Not tonight. Not ever again if you choose that. The door opened, and a female detective entered. Detective Asha Porter. Firm, but compassionate. Lena, I'm here to help, and I'm going to ask you something important. She pulled out a notepad. Do you want to press charges against Ethan Ward? My breath hitched. For 3 years, I'd lived in a cage he built. But now, the door was cracked open, and I had a choice. My voice trembled, but it was stronger than I expected. Yes, I said. I want him arrested. Detective Porter nodded. Then that's exactly what we'll do. At that moment, for the first time in years, I felt something I thought I'd lost forever. Hope.
Detective Asha Porter pulled a chair closer to my bed and spoke with the steady, calm voice of someone who'd done this many times, but still cared every single time. Lena, we're going to take your full statement. Everything you say, combined with the medical evidence, will allow us to arrest him tonight. The word arrest made my stomach twist. For years, Ethan had convinced me he was untouchable, that no one would believe me, that I had no proof, that he controlled everything. But now he was the one who had no control. Detective Porter documented every detail I remembered, every slap, every threat, every bruise, every moment he forced me to stay silent. She photographed my injuries, gently, carefully, apologizing each time the flash made me flinch. Then she turned to the doctor. We'll also include your medical report. These injuries clearly show long-term physical abuse. The doctor nodded. His face was tight with restrained anger. That man belongs nowhere near her, he said firmly. A moment later, a nurse poked her head inside. Detective, security says he's still in the waiting room, pacing, getting angry. My blood ran cold. Detective Porter stood. Good, saves us a trip. She looked at me with soft eyes, but a sharp tone. Lena, listen very carefully. He cannot reach you. He will not reach you. We're arresting him right now. She left the room. Marisol, the advocate, stayed beside me. Do you want me to hold your hand? She asked softly. I nodded. Minutes later, raised voices echoed from the hallway. No, you can't do this! She's my wife! My wife! Ethan's voice, cracking, panicked, furious. Sir, put your hands behind your back. Detective Porter, calm, authoritative. I didn't do anything! She's lying! She's crazy! Ethan again, his mask completely gone. Then the cold, metallic click of handcuffs rang out. My whole body shuddered, with fear, but also relief. Marisol squeezed my hand gently. Breathe, Lena. This is the beginning, not the end. A moment later, Detective Porter returned. It's done. He's in custody. He tried to run when he saw me, so he'll face additional charges for attempting to flee. My mouth parted slightly. He ran? He actually ran. Marisol sighed. They always think they're smarter than everyone else. Detective Porter sat again. You're officially protected by an emergency protective order. He can't contact you or come near you. When he tries to call you from jail, and he will, refuse all calls. We'll block him from reaching you. I swallowed hard. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something new. Determination. Then Detective Porter asked the question I dreaded. Do you have somewhere safe to go when you're discharged? I froze. My parents. I hadn't seen them in over a year. Ethan made sure of that. But I whispered, my parents, I don't know if they'll even want. Marisol touched my arm gently. Let me call them for you. The idea terrified me, but Marisol was right. I couldn't go home. Ethan knew that address. Even with an order, men like him didn't respect boundaries. Safety first. I nodded weakly. Marisol stepped out to make the call, and I held my breath. A few minutes later, she returned with tears in her eyes. They're on their way, Lena. Your mother cried when she heard your name. Your father said, tell her we're coming, right now. My heart cracked open. Not in pain, but in relief. 30 minutes later, my parents rushed into the room. My mother fell to her knees beside my bed, tears streaming down her face as she touched my bruised hands. Oh, sweetheart, my baby, why didn't you tell us? She cried. I sobbed. I was scared. I was so ashamed. My father's voice shook. You have nothing to be ashamed of. He did this, not you. For the first time in so long, I felt loved, safe, held. Detective Porter gave my parents the details of Ethan's arrest, the charges, the next steps. She explained everything clearly, what would happen tonight, tomorrow, and the weeks to come. Before leaving, she looked at me with a determined softness. We're going to protect you. We're going to make sure he never touches you again.
When morning came, I woke slowly, confused at first, unsure of where I was. Hospitals had become a familiar nightmare in my mind, but this time, the fear didn't rush in. My mother was sitting in a chair beside me, holding my hand gently as if I might break. My father stood near the window, arms crossed, eyes red from crying, but trying to stay strong. Good morning, sweetheart, my mother whispered. You're safe. Those words hit harder than any bruise I carried. A few minutes later, Marisol, the advocate, returned. She carried a folder, a warm smile, and a calmness that made me breathe easier. Lena, today's the next step, she said. We need to plan your safety. My parents instantly jumped in. She's coming home with us, my father declared. She's not going anywhere else. Marisol crouched near them. I understand, but Ethan knows where you live. Even with a protective order, abusers often violate boundaries. Leaving the hospital and going straight to the family home, especially the first 48 hours, is considered highly dangerous. My mother gasped quietly. My father's jaw clenched. But she won't be alone, my father insisted. I'll stay awake all night if I have to. I believe you would, Marisol said gently. But this isn't about your commitment. It's about unpredictability. The safest option for now is a secured domestic violence shelter. Confidential location, staff trained in trauma, police-connected security. I watched my parents' faces fall, not because they didn't want to help, but because they realized the danger was real. My mother turned to me. Sweetheart, what do you want? This was the first time someone had asked me what I wanted in years. My voice shook. I want to be safe. Marisol nodded softly. Then let us take you to the shelter. just for now, until the court hearing, until a long-term plan is in place. My parents agreed, and so did I. The shelter. A transportation officer escorted us to an unmarked van and drove us across town. We pulled up to a brick building that looked like an ordinary apartment complex. No signs, no labels, no entry buzzer. Just safety hidden in plain sight. Inside, the warmth surprised me. A woman named Claire, one of the shelter coordinators, welcomed me with a soft voice. "Hi, Lena. We've been expecting you. You're safe here. No one can enter without clearance." She gave me a small room with a bed, a desk, and a soft blanket someone had knitted. I sat on the bed staring at the walls, unsure how to feel. Claire placed a pamphlet on the table. "These are the grief stages survivors experience. Don't be surprised if you feel confused, guilty, angry, numb, hopeful, and terrified at all once." She paused. Her voice dropped. "But I want you to know something. If you made it here, you survived the hardest part." And then she left me alone to breathe. The first night. The shelter was quiet. Women walked softly in the halls. Some whispered to staff. Some cried behind closed doors. Some stayed silent. Every single one had a story. Every single one had escaped. For the first time, I wasn't alone. I was surrounded by women who understood. But that night, when I closed my eyes, the memories hit me like waves. The screaming, the hands around my throat, the threats, the dark room, the fear. My chest tightened, my breath shortened. I curled into a ball. A panic attack. Footsteps approached. Claire knocked softly. "Lena, can I come in?" I managed to whisper, yes. She sat on the floor beside me, close enough to comfort, but far enough not to scare me. She said, "You're safe. You're not back in that house. You're not with him. You're safe." Her voice was calm, steady, grounding. I cried until my entire body shook, but when the sobs finally softened, she gently placed a glass of water in my hands. "You survived him. That takes more strength than most people will ever understand." Her words stayed with me long after she left. The next morning, the shelter staff helped me file official statements, get counseling, and begin the protective process. Ethan was denied bail. For the first time in 3 years, I didn't wake up afraid. I wasn't healed, not even close, but I had taken the first step. I was alive. I was out. And for the first time since meeting Ethan, I could imagine a future. A future that finally belonged to me. The weeks that followed felt like living inside a storm, loud, chaotic, unpredictable. But for the first time in years, the storm wasn't inside my home. It was outside of me. Inside, I was slowly learning how to breathe again. The shelter provided everything: counseling, legal guidance, even group therapy. And every morning, I woke up knowing something unbelievable. Ethan couldn't touch me anymore. Still, the healing was messy. I'd flinch when someone shut a door too hard. My chest tightened whenever I heard footsteps behind me. Sometimes I woke up crying, but with no memory of the nightmare. But Claire, the shelter coordinator, reminded me every day. Healing isn't linear. Some days you'll walk, some days you'll crawl, but you're moving forward. And she was right. The prosecutor. One morning, Marisol, the advocate, arrived with a woman in a dark navy suit. Sharp eyes, calm posture, a quiet strength in the way she carried herself. "Lena, this is Prosecutor Dana Wells. She'll be handling your case." Dana shook my hand gently. "Lena, I've reviewed your medical reports. Your statement, the photos, and Ethan's attempt to flee. We have a strong case." Her voice was steady, confident, reassuring. "We're charging him with multiple counts: aggravated domestic assault, coercive control, false imprisonment, and attempted evasion." My heart raced hearing the list. It felt unreal, like someone was finally naming the things I lived through. Dana sat across from me. "You're going to have a choice. You can testify, or I can try to build the case without your testimony." My stomach dropped. Testifying meant seeing him again, facing him, speaking the truth with him staring at me. I whispered, I don't know if I can handle seeing him." Dana nodded. "Most survivors feel that way, and that fear is valid. But I want you to hear this. If you testify, the jury will hear your voice, your truth, your courage." She leaned in slightly. "And he will lose the one thing he always controlled, your silence." Those words hit me hard. For years, Ethan had controlled every word I said. He silenced me with violence. He silenced me with threats. He silenced me with fear. Speaking in court would break that chain forever. I looked at Marisol, then back at Dana. I whispered, "I'll do it. I'll testify." Dana smiled gently. "That alone shows how strong you are." Therapy and breakthroughs. The shelter required weekly therapy sessions. At first, I resisted. Talking about Ethan felt like walking barefoot on broken glass. But Dr. Chen, the trauma therapist, never pushed. She simply guided. Your mind learned survival. It didn't have space for healing then, but it does now. She taught me breathing techniques, grounding exercises, ways to manage panic, ways to reclaim parts of myself I'd buried deep. One day she asked, "Lena, when did you stop recognizing yourself?" The answer slipped out before I could stop it. "The night he found me at the motel." She nodded gently. "That night didn't show your weakness. That night showed your strength. You tried to escape. You tried to live. And you are still trying. That makes you a survivor." I cried for almost the entire session. But for the first time, the tears felt healing. A visit from my parents. My parents visited often. Slow steps at first, small conversations, rebuilding trust, rebuilding connection. One afternoon, my mother brought a small gift, a photo of me at age 10, smiling on a beach, sun in my hair. "I brought this," she said, her voice soft, "because you look like a girl who didn't know fear yet, a girl who deserves to live again." I held the photo against my chest and cried. My father hugged me gently, carefully, as if afraid to hurt me. "You're coming back to us, and we're not losing you again," he whispered. The court date. A month later, Dana returned with updates. "Ethan's lawyers are trying to argue the injuries were accidental," she said. "Typical strategy, but the evidence strongly contradicts them." "When is the trial?" I asked. 3 months. We'll spend the next weeks preparing you." My heart raced. 3 months. 3 months until I'd face the man who destroyed me. 3 months until the truth finally stood against him. Dana placed a folder in front of me. "This isn't the start of the fight, Lena. This is the beginning of the end." A chill went through me. Not of fear, of power. I wasn't just escaping Ethan anymore. I was preparing to defeat him. The 3 months leading up to the trial crawled and flew at the same time. Dana, the prosecutor, prepared me piece by piece. Everything from where I'd sit, how the defense might attack my credibility, how their lawyer would twist my words.
But she also reassured me constantly. You're telling the truth. The evidence is on your side. I will not let them intimidate you. Despite that, the fear lingered beneath my skin, because I knew that soon I would have to look Ethan in the eyes again. The day of the trial. The morning of the trial, I stood in front of the mirror in the shelter's bathroom, hands shaking as I tried to zip up my blouse. It wasn't fear of losing. It was fear of being seen, not by the world, but by him. Claire, the shelter coordinator, came in quietly. "Do you want help?" she asked softly. I nodded. She zipped the blouse for me and rested her hand on my shoulder. "You walk into that courtroom as who you are now, not who he tried to make you." Her words steadied me more than she knew. The courthouse. My parents were waiting in the lobby. My mother hugged me gently, fighting tears. My father's jaw was tight, fists clenched, but he tried to give me a steady smile. "We're right here," he said, "no matter what happens inside." Marisol joined us, placing her hand over mine. "You're stronger today than the woman he tried to break, and you're not walking in alone." We walked together toward the courtroom, but when I stepped inside, I froze. Because there he was, Ethan, in an orange jumpsuit, handcuffs, a guard beside him. And yet, he still tried to look at me like he owned me. His smirk was faint, but it was there, that old, poisonous expression that used to terrify me. For a moment, my heartbeat stuttered. My breath caught. The room felt smaller. But then something happened. He looked at me, and I looked right back. And for the first time, he looked away first. The trial began. Prosecutor Dana stood strong and clear. "Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is not a case of an accident. This is a case of sustained, brutal domestic abuse. The defense tried to paint me as unstable, overly emotional, a woman with a tendency to exaggerate, someone who was clumsy and accident-prone. It was predictable and infuriating. But then came the medical witnesses. The ER doctor took the stand and spoke firmly. These injuries are consistent with repeated assault, not a fall. The pattern, location, and age of the bruises show long-term abuse. The nurse testified. When I saw her injuries, I knew immediately this was not an accident. Detective Porter testified. When we approached Ethan Ward at the hospital, he attempted to flee. His behavior was suspicious and incriminating. Every detail, every word, every photo built the case brick by brick. My turn to testify. When Dana called my name, my heart dropped to my stomach. I walked slowly to the stand, my legs trembling. I sat. I swore the oath. Dana approached with soft eyes. "Liana, please tell the court what happened during your marriage." And I did. For nearly an hour, I told them everything. The first slap, the first apology, the threats, the nights he hurt me, the motel, the fear, the night I passed out, the car ride, the lie. I cried. I trembled, but I did not stop. When I finished, the room was silent. Then the defense attorney stood. "Ms. Hart," he said with a slick smile, "isn't it true you never reported anything until now? Why stay with a man who was hurting you?" I lifted my chin. "Because abusers make you believe you can't survive without them. Because he isolated me from everyone. Because I was afraid he'd kill me, and because he promised he would." The courtroom murmured. The defense attorney frowned. "Isn't it possible you're exaggerating?" "No," I said firmly. "I lived like a prisoner. Every bruise on my body is proof. Every scar, every x-ray, every panic attack. I'm not exaggerating anything. I'm surviving it." He had no comeback. When I stepped down from the stand, my mother cried quietly. My father nodded at me with pride. Marisol squeezed my hand. "You did it," she whispered. "You took back your voice." The verdict approached. The trial lasted a week. Then the jury deliberated. Hours passed. My stomach twisted. My hands shook. Finally, a bailiff said, "The jury has a verdict." My heart stopped. This was it. Everything I survived, everything I fought for, was about to be answered.
The courtroom was silent. So silent I could hear my own heartbeat pounding against my ribs. My palms were slick with sweat. My parents sat on either side of me. Marisol squeezed my arm gently. "Whatever happens," she whispered, "you've already won. You got out." But deep down, I needed more than escape. I needed justice. The judge entered. Everyone rose. The jury filed in one by one, their expressions unreadable. The foreperson stood. "In the matter of the state versus Ethan Ward, we find the defendant..." My breath caught. "Guilty on all counts." The words hit me like a wave. Not painful, but cleansing. Gasps echoed across the courtroom. My mother sobbed quietly. My father exhaled shakily, his shoulders finally dropping with relief. Marisol pressed her forehead against mine, whispering, "You're free, Lena. You're finally free." I looked at Ethan. For the first time in 3 years, he didn't look powerful. He didn't look confident. He looked small. His jaw tightened as he stared at me with a mix of fury and disbelief, like he couldn't understand how his world had collapsed in just a few months. But it had. Because of me. Because I chose to speak. The judge slammed the gavel. "Ethan Ward is hereby sentenced to 12 years in state prison." 12 years. 12 years where he couldn't touch me. 12 years where he couldn't choke me, hit me, follow me, threaten me. 12 years where I was no longer afraid. I felt my lungs expand in a way I hadn't felt in years. I could breathe after the verdict. Outside the courtroom, the sun felt warmer, brighter, like the world was no longer suffocating me. My mother held me tightly, kissing the top of my head. "You're coming home," she whispered. "No more hiding, no more pain." My father nodded, wiping tears he tried to hide. "I'm proud of you. You fought back. You survived. You won." But the truth was, healing wasn't perfect. That night, I cried in the shower until the water ran cold. Not because I was scared, but because my body was finally releasing everything I held for years. The grief, the exhaustion, the relief. At the shelter, Claire hugged me gently. "You didn't just walk away from a monster, you walked towards yourself." Her words wrapped around me like a blanket. New beginnings. Weeks later, I moved back into my parents' home. My old room was still there. Soft blue walls, childhood photos, a small desk where I once dreamed about my future. Now, I was building a different future, one that belonged to me. I continued therapy. I journaled. I attended survivor support meetings. I learned how to sleep without flinching at shadows. I learned how to trust sunlight again. Slowly, piece by piece, I found myself. One morning, while sitting outside with a cup of tea, something surprising happened. I smiled. Not because I forced it, not because I was pretending, but because I felt, maybe for the first time, peace. And I knew something with absolute certainty. Ethan broke me, but I rebuilt myself. Stronger, braver, untouchable. He may have taken years from my life, but he would never take another second. If you felt this story, if you believe survivors deserve a voice, if you want more powerful stories like this, make sure to like this video, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps these stories reach the people who need them most. Stay strong, stay safe, and remember, your voice can save someone's life.